Welcome to episode 94 of Drew's Sports Crew here on this Monday night. Yes, it's a Monday night. I almost said Sunday night because that's how we roll here usually on that Sunday. But of course, yesterday being a holiday for many, and everyone's still celebrating holidays. Hope you had a great one, but kind of has moved a lot of things around here on the podcast. But no worries, myself, Drew Skyberg, is here to bring you the news in the sports world. As always, for this week here, this upcoming week, the past week, we'll be discussing, as always, too. But look, the big thing I want to highlight, look, we're 6 episodes away from episode 100. Definitely will be a celebration on that one. We also have a $10 giveaway to do today for the Drew Sports Crew holiday giveaway. Right? I mean, we have for people who I want to thank everyone who participated in subscribing to YouTube and following the TikTok for a giveaway entry, or you just did one, you got one entry. If you did both, you got two. So I want to thank everyone who participated in on that. But a lot of things is basically what I'm saying. We have to discuss, and I'll get right into it here. I'll save the announcements for the end of the episode. Monday Night Football, those coming up. So we'll move this episode. We'll move it along for those who want to be watching that one. And first, we're going to start, as always, in the world of high school basketball. In the Eastern Wisconsin Conference is where we'll go. After that, we'll go talk about the Milwaukee Bucks performance on Christmas Day, and then we'll talk the Green Bay Packers. So we'll do like that. We'll go basketball, football is how this episode will go. And let's go now. Eastern Wisconsin Conference girls basketball. I will go through it as we always do here on the show. The Eastern Wisconsin Conference standing report for girls basketball features the Brilliant Lions on top of the conference. 5-0 in conference, 7-1 overall is the Brilliant Lions. Chilton 4-1 in conference, 7-2 overall. New Holstein 4-2 in conference, 6-2 overall. Kiel 3-2 in conference, 5-5 overall. Sheboygan Falls 2-3 in conference, 6-4 overall. Valders 2-4 in conference, 4-7 overall. Roncalli 1-4 in conference, 3-6 overall. And then Two Rivers rounds it out, 0-5 in conference, 1-9 overall. Let's go to your stats now. And I mentioned how New Holstein is dominating it, and you guessed it, they are still on top. The New Holstein Huskies, Grace Shizzle, 23 points per game. Allison Kakis, 22.5, is in second. Peyton Grenzer, 16.4 a game. Adeline Hurl, 16.3 a game. Megan Schumann rounds it out, 15.4 points per game. Rebounds, Peyton Grenzer, 14.5. She is on top. Addison Schwilly, 13.1. And then Adeline Hurl, 12.2. In the assists department, Alyssa Wolfel leads the way, 5.6 assists per game for her. Allison Kakis, 4.5. And then Olivia Shue, 4.4. Is it just me, or assist numbers seem to be up this year? Honestly, I'll talk about him on the boys' side, but for Brilliant, Parker Brown is 6.9 assists per game. When I say 6.9, think about a 7, right? I just am shocked. 7 assists per game at the high school level for me is just that's crazy. I mean, that's a crazy number to think about. And then even on the girls' side, Alyssa Wiffle, 5.6. Think of it as six assists, 5. You want to round it up. I'm just I think some crazy numbers on the assist side. We'll talk more about boys, but first on the girls' part, I want to touch on the past week we had some cancellations, so you might have noticed not a huge shift in standings at all, quite frankly, but we do have some exciting matchups coming up. We have games back tomorrow, and those games, a lot of non-conference. This is the time of the year, as we know, you get the non-con. Got some good ones. We have Algoma and Brilliant squaring off at 3:00 tomorrow afternoon/evening. We have that random Lake Kiel game, 6:30. That should be a good one there. That's at Kiel. Campbell Sports Sheboygan Falls at 7. That kind of wraps up your Tuesday slate. We have Two Rivers and Manitowoc Lutheran on Thursday. That's at 5:00. Then we have Roncalli in Reedsville. That's at 6:30. Valders and Howard's Grove at 6:30 as well. That one at Howard's Grove. The other one, Roncalli Reedsville at Reedsville. On Friday, we have some question marks. We have Valders at to be determined. Who knows if a game's going on there? I thought that was the what's it called? The Shawano Sundrop Shootout. It's not in Shawano. It's at the Crest Center. They call it the Sundrop Shootout. They play the games. I think Valders, that might be a game. I don't know why. They usually play Wrightstown, so I don't know what's going on there, but we'll have to investigate that one. Roncalli Mantuan Lutheran on Friday at 5 o'clock is that one. And then 6:30 p.m. Two Rivers and Reedsville. That's the last game of the 2022 year, as the next game featuring EWC team will take place January 3rd, 2023. So that's kind of it here for girls. As I mentioned, I'll just to do a brief recap. Brilliant, Chilton, New Holstein are those top three teams in the conference. Brilliant, of course, being the favorite. Chilton and New Holstein are making some noise, though. They're putting up some good fights and they're playing some good teams. They're playing very well. So, they're challengers to Brilliant is what I would put them as. Kiel, Sheboygan Falls, Valders, those are your middle teams, and I think Kiel has set themselves apart. Kiel and maybe Sheboygan Falls, you want to throw in there from Valders and Roncalli. If you want to put them a tier above, I can understand that. Otherwise, right, Valders, Roncalli are those kind of two tiers, the tier below that. And then you have Two Rivers rounding it out there, hoping the Raiders, right, can gain some momentum here in the conference play. They certainly haven't had an easy schedule, as we know, but Two Rivers, girls basketball the last few years have put together some really good teams. Of course, they still have Allison Kakis. They have overall, have put together teams that can, put up a lot of points. It's always seemed to have someone in the assist column as well. Not this year, or actually, yeah, this year with Allison Kakis, but some good teams as always in the EWC, and certainly rooting for them to go far. Let's go to the boys' side here. The boys also had some cancellations last week, as we know, impacted due to weather. Also, not much movement in the standings because of it, but I can tell you the Brilliant Lions are still undefeated in boys basketball in, overall and in conference. 5-0 are those Lions. 8-0 overall for them. Kiel 4-1 in conference, 5-1 overall. Valders 3-2 in conference, 5-3 overall. Roncalli 3-2 in conference, 3-3 overall. Two Rivers 2-3 in conference, 5-3 overall. New Holstein 2-3 in conference, 2-6 overall. Sheboygan Falls 1-4 in conference, 1-5 overall. And then Chilton rounds it out, 0-5 in conference, 2-7 overall. Points per game leaders, you guessed it, Jeremy Lorenz is on top, 21.8 a game for him. Brady Richards, 18.8 points per game for him. Cole Hovey, 18.1. He is in third. Pierce Arns, 16.2. Max Miller of Chilton rounds it out, 15.4. And the rebounds per game, you guessed it, Grant Munns on top, 14.0 rebounds per game for him. Jeremy Lorenz in second, 12.1. Cole Hovey of Alders, 9.8 in third. And again, I mentioned this number already, 6.9 assists per game, basically 7 assists for Parker Brown. I think I'll do some digging in the stats, but I do think that is going to be, that is the highest amount we've seen. Let me see if I got some, I'll go, I know we're early in the year, but if I just go to 2 seasons ago, I took 2 seasons ago, 2020, 2021, the assist per game leader was Bryce Peterson, 4.1 assists. And then if we just go even back to last season, I'll give you the numbers. 5.4 assists for Pierce Arns was the high, which 5.4, assist and a half higher is Parker Brown. But think about that. Assist and a half higher, when you're already averaging, 6.9 assists, or you're averaging 5.5, that's pretty big margin. I do think, is that 6.9 assists per game sustainable? I hope so. It'd be cool. I have to talk with Robert in the stats/records department to see what was the highest we've seen since that, or what's the highest the EWC in a whole has seen. So we'll get on that. But Austin Kramer is in second, 4.7. He might be, any other years could be number one. right? I mean, number one in the conference is kind of the point I'm making. So, Austin Kramer, Pierce Arns, these guys playing well, passing the ball well. They're doing great things with the ball in their hands, is what I'm saying. But just not their year to be the assist guy when a guy like Parker Brown of Brilliant steps in and has played very well this year offensively and even of course on the defensive side as well. This team, Brilliant they have a lot of weapons. We've talked about it, but we'll go to the schedule here. I'll talk more about the standings and the tiers in a second, but Luxembourg Casco and Brilliant is that game. That is tomorrow at 5:00. Is you'll find that one. That's at Brilliant. Roncalli travels to St. Mary Springs. Two Rivers goes to Utsburg. And then we got Wednesday. We got a doubleheader for Brilliant. They host both of them, so no worries for them. Kettle Moraine Lutheran wants a challenge. They'll travel up to Brilliant, face them there. This Wrightstown Valders one hold on. I do think that Kettle Moraine Lutheran Brilliant game that is a part of the Sundrop shootout. If they still sponsor it, the game at the Crest Center, I believe Kettle Moraine Lutheran Brilliant. That's where that is. Wrightstown and Valders, that is also there. I'm gonna say, unless there's some other tournament going on, they do. Two Rivers they play a to be determined matchup on Wednesday as well, and then Roncalli hosts one. Maybe there's something going on. Two Rivers in the past, I believe, has done some sort of tournament in mid-season, but otherwise, Valders historically has gone to the Crest Center, some other schools as well, but I just know Valders. We have New Holstein Random Lake. We have Kiel Manitowoc Lutheran. And then on Thursday, we have Random Lake Kiel, New Holstein Manitowoc Lutheran, Campbellsport Sheboygan Falls. And that wraps it up, until 2023. But so, that stretch of non-con games we talked about, you'll see some good ones here. Intrigued to see that Valders Valders Wrightstown one. Also, that Kettle Moraine Lutheran Brilliant should be exciting matchups. Also, want to see how Roncalli plays St. Mary Springs. I think that's one to keep in mind. Otherwise, let's talk those tiers. We'll talk those standing. Here we go for the boys. Brilliant. Of course, you got to put one at one. I don't even need the letter A or B. Brilliant. The challengers, you got to say Kiel's the top challenger. And then, maybe a half step, maybe a full step, you say Valders. Those are kind of those top three teams. It's really right. Brilliant. And then Kiel and Valders being challengers. Kiel beat Valders first time around, but lost to Brilliant, as Valders did as well. But that's where you got to put Kiel a step up of Valders. That head-to-head means something there. Roncalli, though, right? I mean, although Valders, Roncalli have the same conference record, Valders won by 24 over Roncalli. Certainly, you got to put Valders, a step or two ahead of Valders, a step or two ahead of Roncalli. Roncalli, Two Rivers is kind of in the same tier for me, right? Two Rivers winning that head-to-head matchup. And then I'd say, New Holstein maybe. I think I'd say Two Rivers over New Holstein. And then I'd put New Holstein, Sheboygan Falls, and then Chilton rounding that out in my tier list there. But overall, I'd say on the boys' side, it's it's what we expected. It honestly is. We thought Brilliant was going to be that team to beat, and then on top of it, right, we have Kiel and Valders in the mix. Roncalli was kind of that middle team. We knew kind of what we were going to get out of them. Not really. We knew a lot of people were graduating. We knew a lot of turnover was on that team. Of course, with a new coach as well. Two Rivers, Brady Richards has been a standout for the EWC, 18.8 a game. Not many thought he was going to be second in the conference in scoring, so credit to Richards on that. I mean, New Holstein, it's kind of been, through these last few years, after those 2017, 2018 years, they've had a lot of, they've had some talented players. They still do, right? But it's just been a struggle at times, and they're 2-6 overall right now. I also, tend to play a fairly tough non-con schedule. Got to highlight that. And then Sheboygan Falls, Chilton, again, they rounded out. But yeah, these assist numbers, I will get on that. 6.9 assists per game is crazy. On top of that, you get 5.6 for the girls' side. So Robert Shimmick will be on that. I promise you that. We'll go and we'll talk about professional basketball now. We're going to take two steps up, not just a step, maybe two and a half, whatever you call G League, if you include that with the NBA. But nonetheless, we are talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. And, I talked about this road trip. I did. Now, I mentioned, you know, I'm not putting the Bucks at one because the Bucks have a tough road trip coming up. Boston had a tough road trip. Boston handled it, you know, not so well, but Boston handled it as well as the Bucks did. And what happened was, touch it on the Bucks side. The Bucks, they win in New Orleans. They win that tough one. They played an excellent game of basketball through the 48 minutes. The story, they dig themselves in a huge hole and they make this great comeback with 8 minutes left, but it's not enough. We saw that in Cleveland. That was a prime example. They're down, it was 20 plus. Cut it so they lose by 8. And then we see them with Brooklyn. That game got a little out of hand in the third. They brought it back. Kind of just kept opening and closing that door for a comeback. But, Brooklyn played well at home, and then it doesn't get any easier. You go to Boston on Sunday on Christmas, and Boston did what they did in Game 7 in the finals. They shot the ball lights out. They put up 139 points on the Bucks. The Bucks score 118. Bucks score their second most points they did in the last week, but they lose by 21, and that's, you can credit, the offense, but honestly, it was not a good performance of the defense. A lot of perimeter shots, a lot of open perimeter shots, a lot of mismatches that were taken advantage of by Boston. I thought that was something that was underrated. And Giannis also, not going to say he didn't play bad. I mean, he didn't play bad. He didn't play necessarily good, though. He didn't play the Giannis level, which, credit Boston. They have the personnel to defend Giannis, and they've been able to do so, successfully the last few years. No Chris Middleton. You can play that excuse card. Totally fair, right? But, this is the regular season, so we're not going to put too much on these games. I honestly, not worried about losing this road trip. This is the toughest stretch of 3 games they'll have all year. Or tough, even toughest 4-game stretch. New Orleans, Cleveland, Brooklyn, Boston, all 4 on the road. 4 good teams. I can go through the rest of the schedule. I don't see a tough 3-game stretch as tough as that, because you get Brooklyn at home in March, but then you have 2 days off, or you have day off, and then you go to Golden State. I mean, if you want to consider that tough, you also have go from Golden State to Sacramento, Phoenix. Not terrible. Of course, the Sacramento Phoenix back-to-back is not ideal, but honestly, this is the toughest it gets, as there are 4 straight games on the road against 4 good teams. Yeah, you get the rest of them on mostly at home. You get a better balance as on top of that. So, not worried if you're a Bucks fan. Please don't be worried. Don't be worried about, Grayson Allen might have not played the best this past week. Javon Carter, also not a good week from him, but I'm telling you, relax. No reason to be worried. And we have a good schedule coming up this week. We got 3 games on the slate. We go to Chicago. Bucks get some good off days. They go to Chicago on Wednesday at 7 o'clock against the struggling Bulls. It's a good matchup for the Bucks. And then home sweet home Friday, December 30th against Minnesota. So not mad. You have a good matchup there at home against Minnesota. And then Sunday, you get the Wizards. You get a back-to-back against the Wizards Sunday, Tuesday. So the new year starts off right with a victory against the Wizards. I got the Bucks going 3-0 this week. They are going undefeated. Nice bounce back. They're going to go to 25-11. That's the other thing. They only have 11 losses. They're 22-11 through 33. Can't go wrong. No complaints from me. And that's kind of, that's it for the Bucks. You'll see my power rankings up tomorrow. I'm going to have to move the Bucks a few spots down. Honestly, I really want to keep them at 2. I mean, it's unpopular. I know they lose 3 straight on the road, but look to the teams they lost to. I honestly might move them down to 3 or 4, but I'm really struggling to find a team I can put, at 2, or 2 or 3 above them. Not even, you can say bias, but look last week. Where were the Bucks? They weren't number 1. I do my best to, provide unbiased, fair power rankings when I'm going through it. It's just I'm looking at these teams. I'm looking at road trips. I'm looking at ways, I can give a team an edge over the other team, or, just trying to put it all in perspective on that note. But we're going to touch on the Christmas Day win for the Green Bay Packers against the Miami Dolphins. And in this one, it was a thriller, I'd say. This game was that classic, Packer game. It's like you're questioning what they're doing. You're like, okay, we just faked a punt on a 4th and 2 at our own 20, and the fake punt was a direct snap and a run up the middle. Like, it was like, what is going on? That was one for me. Also, a 4th and maybe 1 it was. I'm like, they're 30. And it's like, okay, and then Rodgers throws a 30-yard pass. It's like, no, we need a yard. We need the yard. We don't need the 30 yards. We don't need that bomb to Christian Watson. We need that Mercedes Lewis, play action thing that we saw for a touchdown. Obviously, that probably doesn't work in that setting, but just my point is we need 1 yard. We don't need the 30. So I do think, more situational play calling. I think that would really help the Packers out because, sure, right, they get the touchdown there in that bomb. I'd be thinking, of course, hindsight's 2020, but like, I think there still has to be a better balance of situational play calling. Right, that 4th and 2, you're already faking it from your own 20. Why not pass it? Why not do something? You're already, I don't see the idea of doing the run there is all for me, but I'll dive into stats a little here. There's some concern with Aaron Jones. If he's healthy, 6 carries only. Like, he didn't look healthy when he was out there. It was a concern for me. Only 2 targets, too. Just not involved whatsoever. The red zone work went to A.J. Dillon, 11 for 36 was Dillon. 3.3 an attempt. And I mentioned that touchdown. I'll go back to the quarterback play, though, for Rodgers. 24 38, 238 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That interception was not good. It wasn't. I mean, it should have been DPI, in my opinion. Rodgers, I thought, though, he had his best throw of the year to Mercedes Lewis. Maybe, top 2, top 3. Maybe it's not number 1, but that one stands up or sets up in my mind as number 1. But otherwise, I thought Dillon played a good game. Watson unfortunately got hurt. He had 8 targets, still only playing like a half, was it? Allen Lazard had 11 targets. Lazard had a drop, wasn't pleased with the Lazard performance. He had the volume, but he had 11 targets, got 5 of them. And obviously, it's not all his fault, but certainly thought he could have done more. Romeo Doubs had a drop too. Actually, I've been disappointed with Doubs' play, to be honest. Haven't been really impressed with what I've seen. Patrick Taylor had that nice 17-yard reception. Robert Tonyan only 2 targets. A.J. Dillon 3 targets. I mentioned Aaron Jones too. Randall Cobb only 2. Josiah DeGuara had that 1 for 4 yards. But what else do I got? I have that Jaron Reed fumble recovery on defense. I wanted to touch on the defense. Had 4 turnovers in this one. Credit Jaron Reed on that one. Plus, he had a sack. Preston Smith had a sack. Preston Smith played very well in this one. Thought Adrian Amos, he played well, honestly, in that secondary. I know he had a lot of tackles because they were throwing the ball deep, but go back. He had a very good game. I was very pleased with what I saw from him. Quay Walker had decent, he had pressure, but not much from him in this one. I thought Devontae Wyatt kind of had a standout game for him, maybe one of his best games of the year. We'll have to wait to see what Pro Football Focus says on that one, but honestly, I was pleased with what we saw from Wyatt in this one. Interception-wise, we talked to the turnovers. It was Jair Alexander, Devondre Campbell, and Rasul Douglas. Let's talk about those kick returns. Wow. Right? I mean, wow is what every Packer fan was saying in their mind. Keshawn Nixon returns 2 of them for an average of 56.5 yards. I know 93 is the long, so it's a little inflated, but the other one was great too. They actually squibbed it. I mean, you just got to talk about the value of a powerful kick returner in terms of when they squib it because they're scared of his return, and the Packers get good field position because of the squib. ended up turning like a kind of an onside, kind of not right. I mean, it's so valuable. Like those are the plays that aren't in the stat sheet. That's not in the stat sheet that I'm reading right now. Those are winning plays. Those are plays that win you the game. And Packers, another reason why they win 26-20, just things like that. Hopefully Nixon is doing a lot, doing well. Haven't looked at the injury reports yet, and we're not going to really have more insight until tomorrow, I feel. So looking for him and Aaron Jones on that. And when I say tomorrow, I'm talking Tuesday, the 27th of December. So Dobbs goes back there, tries to play hero ball. Everyone knows that Dobbs' return was terrible. Should have just, took the knee in the end zone. His teammates told him to. We saw it. Not ideal. Randall Cobb returning punts. I'm for it. I think that's the approach that needs to be made. Crosby 4 for 4 on field goals. He made 14 points himself. Pat O'Donnell had to only punt once in the game, 46 yards. We'll talk about Miami, right? I mean, Tua played not well, and it's kind of unfair to say not well in terms of 3 quarters. He played good, right? He was efficient. He was making deep throws. He was making the right reads. And in the fourth quarter, everything went downhill. Made 2, I heard the interview is 2 bad throws right on his end, and then some miscommunication that led to another bad throw. So 3 interceptions for him, and now we heard the news today he is in concussion protocol for the second time this year. So we do wish Tua well, of course. He's a vital part of this Dolphins team, and hopefully he gets better as those Dolphins push for that playoff push, right? Nothing but respect for the Miami Dolphins and the work that they've done this year, right? Mike McDaniel talked about him on Journey Million. This team has been an incredible story, and I'm hoping Tua gets well and can get ready to lead that team right in that playoff push. But talking Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, that was an interesting split. 8 carries to 9, and Wilson had the 9 to Mostert's 8. And they were efficient. Honestly, they only run the ball 18 times. Seemed like a lot more if you're watching, but they were getting 4.6 an attempt. Why go away from the run? Mike McDaniel was my question. They did have the big play. Jalen Waddle, 5 receptions, 143 yards, and a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, 4 for 103. That was really it. I mean, Trent Sherfield was 2 for 25. Mike Gesicki, 1 for 24. But otherwise, that was that. We had Tua had 2 fumbles. Raheem Mostert had that fumble that he lost. Yeah. Looking through it, in this one, right, I mean, I can go through. There's 10-10, end of 1. Packers then score 3 in the second compared to the Dolphins. They put up a touchdown over them. They put up 10 there, and it was 13-20 at half in that one. And with that, in the second half, it was that A.J. Dillon 1-yard run with 8 minutes to go. That tied the game at 20. Then the fourth quarter, we just had 2 field goals. It felt like, I know the scoring summary. I'll tell you, 11:45, Crosby had a 28-yarder, and then at 2:02, he had a 26-yarder. Right? There's a lot more action in the game than what the scoring summary will tell you. Honestly, it was back and forth. Right? These just looks like, there's only 3 scores in the second half. There's a lot more going on than that. I'll tell you that. So I'd say it was more like that in this one. A lot of action early, some action in the middle, and still a lot of action at the end. But the Packers get the job done. They get that Christmas win that they needed, 26-20. And now they host the Vikings in Week 17. Packers open up as favorites in that one. Keep in mind, they needed everyone who they needed to lose. They need the Commanders to lose. They lost. Giants lost. They had the Lions lost. And then Seahawks, they lost. So all 4 teams, 4 losses. Packers win. So now we're looking at they win out. They win the next 2 games. We have the Commanders lose 1 game, and they play Dallas still, and they play Cleveland. They play Cleveland and then Dallas. Dallas could be playing for something. And it's looking good. Honestly, next week's the hard week, and plus the Lions. They still got to win 2 weeks in a row. I mean, that's still easier said than done in the NFL. So I'm not going to say I'm not gonna be too crazy on this and say Packers are in the playoffs because come on. I did mention on Journey to Million, I did originally say 20% before this game. I shouldn't have. I ended up, I literally right after I said 20%, I went down to 15-ish percent, but I was banking on those teams losing. But now that those teams lost, I'll move it my playoff prediction or playoff odds for the Packers. I'll say they got roughly, 20%. I'll go back to where I started to 25%. I think that's a fair spot to put because with an it's likely that the Browns or the Cowboys could beat the Commanders, but how likely is it that Packers win against Minnesota and Detroit to round out the year? That's where things can happen. I'd say 25% is a likely neighborhood to put that probability at, but I'm hoping for it, as many are, right? And going through some announcements here now before we wrap up, because that's all I got. We'll talk the Packer preview against the Vikings. That's that Journey to Million, which will be transitions right into my announcements. Roughly around 3 o'clock tomorrow, you can expect Journey to a Million. Hopefully, we can have all three of us here. Otherwise, it'll just be Zach and I or Jared and I on that one. We'll be talking through the usual. Anything goes there in terms of football, right? We'll be talking. Last week we were talking about Justin Herbert. We've talked about we talk about the 49ers. We'll talk we talked about fantasy football last week. Just anything football, right? If you want football, you go to Journey to Million, you'll get it all. We're actually also talking about head coaches. We were talking about Packer playoff hopes on top of it, but we were just talking about how much blame do you put on a head coach? I mean, what we went through that question. We talked about ways to assess how much level. We talked about some coaches in particular, and just some of our predictions on top of that. So when I say anything football goes, you'll hear it all there. You'll hear a lot of different football topics, and we really try to provide that in-depth, unique insight you'll get on that. But otherwise, you might have noticed Drew's basketball crew's moving around. It's getting flexed. When I say it's getting flexed, I'm trying to move it around now. Where when there's a big slate, there's an exciting slate. I want to make sure I provide it. So if you want to listen and prepare for the big slate, right? I mean, Nikola Jokic was the biggest performance yesterday, and I had him in the lineup. We had him, which many have, right? I mean, he was one of the highest players in terms of salary on there, but point is, the goal is to provide a winning lineup on Fantasia Sports, and you'll get that winning lineup if you tune in there on Drew's basketball crew. And when I say I'm trying to give that notice, it'll be more around Friday, Saturday now these days. I think we're going to do the December 30th or New Year's slate, or New Year's Eve slate, or New Year's Day. One of those three. I'll keep you posted on that, though. And of course, Drew's College Athlete Spotlight, that'll be back when it'll be back the week the spring semester starts for college, right? I want to make sure college athletes are all back at school, and it makes it easier for myself included to conduct those interviews, right? When they're all in season and in a routine base. So that's why you're not going to be seeing that the next 3 weeks here. We do have 7 or 8 episodes left of that as well. So keep that one in mind. And that's going to wrap it up here for myself, Drew Skyberg. But first, I did not forget, I have that giveaway. I'm going to be running through it here. We're going to press through it 3 times on the random number generator. I want to thank everyone again for going through it. I knew I had it in the announcements. I did not forget. All right, 3 times here I'm going to run through. All right, I got number 1, I got number 2, and then number 3. Number 3 is the number 5 on here. And looking at it on the spreadsheet, the winner is Mikey Johannick. Congratulations, Mikey Johannick. You have won giveaway number 1. I will be in contact with you on that. So thank you, Mikey, for your support, and thank you to everyone who entered this giveaway. I truly appreciate it. I do have one more giveaway, though, coming up. If you did not win, unfortunate. I do have one more. And the last one will be involving 5-star reviews on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts. If you do both, you get double entries. If you can only do one, I apologize. You get that one entry. So you see, I think one entry on that. Um, Otherwise, you get two entries, and that's the game plan. Hopefully, you can be a winner on that giveaway. And again, at Drew Sports Crew is where you can send that all in. Find me there at Drew Skyberg on top of that as well. But that's going to wrap it up here for myself, Drew Skyberg, on this Monday night. Thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Drew Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.